Welcome to OOO, an out of ordinary podcast where we dig deep into case studies and the nitty gritty of Web3 marketing. You'll find here all the amazing people that are building Web3, so stick to us as we address their marketing secrets and learn how to build amazing products and brands. Hello everyone, I'm Alex, your fellow Web3 marketer and the host on Out of Ordinary podcast. This is episode 64. If you don't know already, I've launched a community for all you Web3 marketers. And the reason for that is that I know resources are scarce and I think together we can push the pedal. As it's a token-gated community and I'm working on bringing exclusive content, this will be paid, but if you sign up now, you will get it for free until the end of March. Now, without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest. Louie O'Connor, or Louie, as many of you might know him already, he's the head of experience at LUKSO, and he's been focusing on all experiences and activations that attract developer to ecosystems through events, workshops, product marketing, and more. He's been working in Web3 for almost 5 years, contributing to LUKSO full-time for 2.5 years, but starting his Web3 career 5 years ago at Chainalysis, helping them scale from Series B to F from 250 to 900 people as their first technical talent acquisition partner. Hey, Louie, how are you? Thank you so much for being on Out of Ordinary podcast. Finally.
At last, we finally made it.
I know you're quite famous online and a lot of people know you, but for those that don't know you, can you give us like a quick intro about yourself and how you got into Web3?
Yeah, sure. Famous online? I haven't heard this before.
People know you, okay?
I need to send this to my mom. So I've been in the crypto space for about 5 years professionally. Previous to all of this crazy stuff, I worked as a technical recruiter, working with FANGs and a lot of Web2 companies like Facebook, working to build out teams like Oculus. And then I fell way too deeply in love with crypto. And before I even really fell fully in love with this space, I kind of landed in a role working in crypto. And I worked at Chainalysis as their first technical recruiter, and it helped to scale them from a couple of hundred people to almost 1,000 from Series B to Series F. And it was pretty mad. And this happened in only a couple of years. And I was very blessed to work in the environment that I worked in and with the people that I did, and managed to learn a lot of important stuff about scaling and going through hypergrowth, and most importantly, Web3. And then I, spent a bit of time doing some freelancing and helping smaller companies to also grow before joining LUKSO as the head of talent, which is what I done for about half a year to a year at LUKSO. I helped to build the tech teams and the operational arm and really try to implement operational excellence from the ground up, from protocols to best practices, from documentation to different and new tools from a non-tech perspective. But my interest always lied in, creating experiences, really. And even when I would go to an office or go to an event as a recruiter, as the technical, hiring person at these companies, I always felt like I fell into this intersection of developers and relationships. And although I'm not a developer by trade, I am definitely a nerd on the inside. So LUKSO was going through a bit of a transition phase with its strategy and, top of funnel activations. And it made a lot of sense for me to step into leading events and really thinking about these experiences and how we create these spaces and enable these debates to happen and make these rooms. So that's what I've been doing now for the last year or so at LUKSO. I've been here for a couple of years in total. And yeah, this is, really what excites me and really what makes me tick. And I think it's like an imperatively important job for the future of this space. And, I think one by one, we can all make a bit of a difference.
I feel like your experience is maybe as exciting or as interesting, or I don't even know how to call it, as LUKSO's journey or like LUKSO's direction, let's say. And when it comes to this, can you tell us a bit like what makes LUKSO unique?
I mean, what makes LUKSO unique is it's the first time that we've had a group of people really think about what primitives do we need to enable Web3 social and to enable this core piece of this space that we've been missing for all of these years. And I guess like the real philosophy of Luxo in the early days was we need to have new tools, we need to have new primitives. And in order to get the industry of Ethereum to adopt these primitives, it's going to take a really long time. And the kind of people that Luxo cares about onboarding and helping and really being there for, which is becoming an even more important topic with the likes of AI and how tech has moved in the last 5 years. It kind of made sense to start almost from scratch. Our founder worked at Ethereum in the early days and done a lot of the important stuff at Ethereum, like building ERC20, and really focused on smart accounts and account abstraction, and was like, hey, we need to focus on this not just from a transaction point of view and from a user experience perspective, but really from an account. So what makes Luxo different is the fact that anything that you do on Luxo is social by default. And I think the unique part of this from where I sit is Luxo is not just about developers, although developers are at the heart of this business, and pretty much every single person that works at this project or contributes to Luxo, it's also about humans. It's about the creative economies. It's about working with DJs and artists and creators to give them not just a platform, but a space to feel comfortable and to, feel safe. And I think fundamentally humans don't care about tech, and humans don't care until they have to care. And Luxo is in a very unique intersection of showing people over time and gradually that, whether you care now or not, you're going to have to, and owning this digital footprint for all of these interactions that you make, or, the ones that are important that you make, is going to be one of the most imperatively important things to come out of tech, not even just crypto.
Something you mentioned to me when we first chatted was about the fact that Luxa had these universal profiles. And I wanted to bring this up because I think it's important for everybody to know about it. And I wanted to ask you, like, how do they differ from traditional blockchain accounts, and what impact does it have on user experience?
The most simple answer is a universal profile is the core identity and profile for anything that you do on Luxo or potentially even outside of Luxo. The way that I look at a universal profile is like a decentralized operating system. When you go to your iPhone and you unlock your phone, there's a few apps that you have on your home screen that Apple makes themselves. And some of these apps don't need to be social, such as the settings or the camera roll. But the apps that are social are the ones that we really care about, the ones that we really value. And what would be amazing if Apple wants to do this, like, Apple, please do this for the creators and for the people, is have this central unified identity that you own. So no matter what app you click on, you have this identity that's yours and that you don't need to be scared about compromising. The difference between universal profiles and any smart account or blockchain based account system is it's not, some sort of a bootstrapped solution to an identity through, ZK or like maybe, different and new unique tools. It's a fundamental change in a layer one. And anything that you do on top of this is therefore social with this universal profile. Of course, you can have more than one. It can still be anonymous, but the feeling that you have when you enter the Luxo ecosystem, it doesn't feel all that too different to Web 2. And to do that without compromising any centralization, it's the first time that we've ever seen this. And as I said, I don't think humans by nature are going to find this imperatively important, although it is. But if we can derive desire to these products, eventually humans will figure out how important this really is. So Luxo is very quickly becoming a product company.
I mean, at the end of the day, everybody got used to stuff just by using them, right? I think a lot of products, and like you talked about Apple, they're also the one that drove desire, let's say, and right now everybody loves it. Because I think not everybody knew how to use a smartphone, or not everybody knew how to use like anything that Apple designed, for example. And I think it's just an example out of like thousands or tens of thousands.
Yeah, it's even like mobile data. Imagine 5 years ago saying to somebody like, if you give me $20 a month, I can give you 10 gigabytes. They're like, what on earth is 10 gigabytes? And it's going to be the same with transaction relayers, where you subsidize gas because the blockchain right now is a privilege. So instead of, paying for every gas fee and having to constantly sign countless transactions, you will have this different app that you work with, or even right now, LUKSO subsidizes all early users. And ultimately, like this will be very similar to a mobile network of where you pay a subscription and in return you receive 10 million gas a month. And no one's going to understand what 10 million gas is right now. But over time, you'll start to use it and you'll start to see roughly how much, gas it takes to do what you want to do on chain. I think what's really important here is LUKSO doesn't believe that everything that we do in the real world has to be on the blockchain. And if anything, I think social apps should initially be built off chain and then, explore the benefits of maybe putting certain features on chain, whether it's your data storage or the account. And this is really what's important with LUKSO is, people need to know that a universal profile is not just, this is only if you want to have a fully on-chain life. It's not. It's just if you care about, having ownership over your profile and your digital footprint. And this can be used to interact with Web2 apps as well. Of course, it unlocks a whole entire new world of what we can do on-chain, but it also unlocks a very new way that we can work with off-chain apps as well.
What I wanted to say is that, like, I think it's actually the first time where I've actually heard a proper indication or a proper solution or a proper, I don't even know how to call it, towards the billion users that we in Web3 are aiming for. Because I feel like in every panel that you go to, everybody's just like, yeah, we do this. And to get there, we need to become better. And we need to like something blah, blah.
Yeah. You just hear like account abstraction and ZK proofs and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, yes. And like the thing that I want every viewer to understand right now is I am not trying to push this down anybody's throat. I just spent way too long in a corner thinking about this and come from a background of fashion, and my family worked in the creative fields all their lives. And a lot of my friends as a Gen Z care more about their digital footprint than their physical passport, and to know that there's like, as far as what I'm aware, one project who really care about this. You see this on crypto Twitter very often. You see these amazing ideas for social apps, and then people say, but who's funding this? But who's actually like going to allow this to be possible? And that's the thing with LUKSO is like, we're not VC backed. Like even the way that we built what we have today over the last 6-7 years, it's been like the most organic way of doing this. And of course, like LUKSO could be a layer 2. It could have these, profile smart account solutions. But we're trying to build a new environment. Just like how people struggle to leave the Apple ecosystem once they enter it. We don't have an ecosystem right now or a country that exists in crypto where it's so hard to leave because you're so emotionally connected to this environment. And the only
There's
way,
Liverland.
apart from Zuzulu,
There's Liverland.
Liverland, yeah. Yeah, but it's less about having an app that you don't want to leave and more about having this core base of something that you build over time, this reputation and this credibility that you don't want to leave behind. Like leaving my ENS doesn't really feel too damaging. It's like, it's going to be okay. Like I still own it for another 2 years. Like whenever I, want to trade on Ethereum or send somebody money, I still have my ENS. And when ENS throw an event, I can go and get a lanyard and, get it put on a NFC chip card, which is great. But I wouldn't leave my Instagram behind. I mean, being like a young kid with Instagram, I have deleted my account and, restarted. And I always think like, I wish that I never done that. I would have loved to have looked back on these experiences and these memories that I, was young and naive and thought, I'm just going to make another one and start again. And, I don't know who these people are that follow me. But that's a real emotional attachment that I'm thinking about 5-10 years later. And like, we don't have a social solution to this. We don't have a blockchain or a project that's empathetic. And that's almost emotional from a tech perspective.
I do have a lot of questions for you, but I think we're going to go through some of them as we move on in the conversation. But something you brought up, and I think it kind of connects very well with my next question, is about the fact that you got no funding. But from what I know, you also launched a token before launching the product, which is the chain. Yeah. And I'm sure it came with a lot of challenges and advantages. What do you feel like were the biggest challenges for you when it comes to this, and what do you think were the biggest advantages of doing such a move? Because I would guess it was a pretty risky move to do.
This is such an amazing question and such a unique topic in this space. Pre-mainnet layer ones or pre-mainnet projects are the most hyped thing that will ever exist in this space or have done historically. There's 3 things that people really look for when choosing to invest or choosing to be excited. One of them is TGE, a token generation event. Like, consumers and traders, the people that we realistically have in this space, are waiting for Berachain, they're waiting for, Monad or whoever it might be, to have their TGE. And they're waiting, to see whether they can have an airdrop or have a piece of pie. Another really of course, important thing is listings. When Binance, when are you going to get onto exchanges? And then, another important part is, VC investment. People want to see, are you going to receive backing? Is there an interest from the venture capital world? And when you have a token before mainnet, kind of all of these things kind of almost go. And you're starting to, instead of bet on speculation, you're kind of betting on a reality of okay, well, this is out there. Mainnet hasn't happened yet, but we can clearly see what they're doing. Everything is open source. So we were in this test net for about 2 or 3 years. And it was because, we didn't want to compromise the decentralization of this network. And LUKSO was really built for the people. So we had a reversible ICO. So you had 9 months to change your mind to a very high level. And we raised in 2021 in Ethereum. And then when we had mainnet, all of the funds that we raised in Ethereum, which were held in Lux E, wrapped on Ethereum's mainnet, were bridged to Lux, LUKSO's native token, which works the exact same way as Ethereum. But yeah, having a token before mainnet is very unique, and it garners a very different community. It kind of allowed LUKSO to build this and foster this real organic community where nobody's here for hype. No one's really in the LUKSO community because they're this is going to be a massive mainnet, and everyone's going to cash out. The people in the LUKSO community genuinely believe in this. There's a really important topic that I don't know whether marketers really speak about, but there's a philosophy about 1,000 true fans. And I don't know of any Web3 projects apart from Solana and Ethereum and maybe select other, of course, Bitcoin, have these 1,000 true fans. And that's because a lot of what they build is based around VC coordination and hype. And there's nothing wrong with hype. Hype is very important, and hype does drive demand. And demand is what we want in this space. We want people to look. But to build this, pre-mainnet without this sort of backing, from very clear intentions, it's really resulted in a beautiful community that LUKSO has. And a lot of people hear about our community before they even hear from Luxo, as a core team.
Do you think it was a success because also the timing was right? Or do you think like it would still be, if you were to launch today, do you think it would have the same impact, or you would attract the same type of community that you have?
Yeah, I think the timing, if we launched today, would be even better. Luxo, when it had its ICO and when it released its white paper in 2019, the topic of creating a new blockchain for the creative economies wasn't even a sentence that anybody was really stringing together. And these topics of empowering artists through identities and through profiles and through like a fully abstracted user experience was something that no one was speaking about. And there was instantly an appetite, more out of curiosity. And I think in this current economy and this current climate, the appetite would be almost less out of curiosity and more out of need. I think if Luxo was to go and have this big launch today, and everybody in this industry, like Pudgy Penguin's airdrop is now looking at this, it would be more of like, oh, we need this, and I think Story Protocol is a really good example. I think Story Protocol releasing in 2019, it would have been a very similar situation of like, oh, I'm really curious to know how decentralizing intellectual property works. Like, this sounds very important. In today's market, Story Protocol is imperatively important, and I think Luxo's timing is perfect. And I think if we raised in 2019 and went the more traditional crypto route, we would be in a very different position now, but the timing would have been a bit different. And maybe we would have been a bit too early, to be completely honest with you.
I would like to know more about like the branding that you guys have built, because I'm guessing it's developed over time. What do you think were the key milestones you get to go through to be where you are right now?
Yeah. So I think that branding, and I think Luxo's branding is incredible. And like a lot. You okay?
Yeah, I hit my elbow on the heater, so I'm always like, oh.
Okay, we can keep going. If you need a break, tell me. A lot of the branding was done at Luxo by our former founder Marjorie, and Marjorie done an incredible job with our branding. I think something that we didn't get right in the early days with branding, although we were the first blockchain that's pink, and we were the first people running around with T-shirts that people actually wanted to take home from events. And that was kind of like how Luxo really started to almost make its word in this space. Like, yes, there were the people that followed our other founder, Fabian, for a long time and saw what he built at Ethereum and were technically interested in what he's interested in. But the real people that looked at Luxo and started to ask, like, who are these people? Why do they throw parties? A lot of this really came from Luxo's branding and Luxo's initial intent with its marketing. The issue with the branding in the early days was that it wasn't very aligned to the product. Branding is an extension of almost product marketing, in a way. And when you look at a brand, not only do you need to be able to understand the emotion and the culture of what's really happening underneath the hood, but you also need to understand almost the intention of where these people are trying to head. And you can see this very clearly between different verticals within the Web3 space. Now, Luxo's branding very clearly has always shown that we're for fashion and that we're for the creators. What it hasn't always shown is that we should also be taken very seriously. And like what we've built and these tools, it's not a joke. Like, this is really going to change a lot of ecosystems and ask a lot of builders questions that they haven't even thought about, let alone been asked. So the way that the branding has changed has kind of been almost more like unwinding and slowly becoming closer to the product. So in the early days, the branding was about fashion, and it was really the first use case that Luxo thought about. Also, the former founder, Marjorie, had a very good foot in the fashion door, hence why we had like these really impressive advisors and were having these great conversations, and still are. But the truth is that Luxor is a lot more than just a blockchain built for fashion. It's a blockchain built for social culture and creators. So although your branding might allude to these three very broad topics, the strategic alignment on the inside can also be pretty different. You can run around saying that we're the blockchain for people, we're the blockchain for socializing, but on the inside, you can be focusing on DeFi primitives for the next 3 months, and then focusing more on the regen side, and then focusing more on the creative economies and crypto consumer. So I think branding shouldn't be your internal roadmap and strategy. Branding should be the future self that you want your project to become, and it needs to be aligned with the tech and with the product, but also with the people for that to happen.
How did you guys find product market fit? Because I think at the beginning it's very you might have a lot of ideas, and I can pick some elements which I think like may have influenced your direction as a company. But I wanted to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a product like this before. I know that a lot of people that use crypto have maybe interacted with Lens or with Zora and like had these social experiences. And like, yeah, people will understand this once our product is really out there in a month or so. Universal Profiles when it's fully live as a mobile app. But finding product market fit in this space, whether it's from a product perspective or from events or from even how to market or how to attract developers, it's almost all new territory. The reason why Luxor has product market fit is because what we're trying to build hasn't not been done before. It's just been done in a different world, and in a very different way. And what I mean by that is these social apps that we all use, like streaming services and social media platforms, and apps that we use to connect with friends and loved ones. The real reason why phones became important was to connect with humans, and understanding that right now to connect with humans, it's from a place of like where you're connecting from isn't yours. And this is very important, especially as AI continues to develop and humans are going to have a less of an understanding of who's creating what, where is this really coming from, what's the truth, and especially as this younger generation grows in this new technical saga, this sense of identity is very important from a philosophical perspective. From a practical perspective, there's also a real lack of identity too, especially like during COVID. I think Corona asked a lot of like very new questions that weren't asked before it hit. Whether it's around like where do you value your time, where do you really belong, like where are your people, where's your community, and this is why we've seen a change in brands. And the brands that today are most successful are community first and commerce second. They're building these run clubs, and going to Pilates is more important than going to Chanel and buying a bag. And 10 years ago, this wasn't heard of before. And the reason why is people kind of almost lost their identity, during this pandemic, and have, been trying to find a way to regain that. And in cities like Berlin, for example, this surge of being liberated and trying to find this community where you belong or where you feel like your people are, it's never existed in a digital age. So the product market fit is really, without this, I don't think people were ever going to know how important this would have been. And I think if you fast track 20 years from now and maybe re-listen to what I'm speaking about at the moment, I think a light bulb would have been like, that was really important. And this is very important. And it's going to take time, and it's not a sprint. Like Luxor will be one of the people who are still here in 10 years to come. And look, maybe Luxor won't be the people that do this. I think we will, but someone needs to do it. And I just hope that somebody does it. And that's why I work at Luxor, because I just really think we're the only people who really care about this.
Personally, I would like to see a lot more activity when it comes to the consumer side of things and the creative side of things and the content creator side of things. And I think this is something that I've been preaching and bitching about online in the last couple of weeks, at least, because I feel like there's so much opportunity right now for content creators. And I work with traders, and I see a lot of content creators, and I see myself, and I see like there's so much technology need. Then I don't understand why nobody's doing it. So
I mean, it's a really fun topic. I mean, I just came back from a brand content creator house. My friend is a fairly big influencer, and I grew up with him. And he was invited to go to this house with a bunch of other content creators and was allowed a +1. And it was like, "Hey, Louie, do you want to come?" And I was like, "Yes, of course I do. It's free." And I spent time with these people who have millions of followers on Instagram and tens of millions on TikTok. And like, I obviously being a nerd, I'm like, whoa, this is like, I can see how much these people really care about what we've built. And I just asked them, how often are you scared about losing your digital identity, your footprint, your Instagram handle, or forgetting your logins, your email address, really simple stuff. And every single one said, I think about it at least once a day, if not more than every single one. And this is the point, right? LUKSO doesn't need to be, everything does not need to exist on chain. This is unattainable. We are not there. Maybe we will never get there. Maybe the scaling of the blockchain will continue to be more of a privilege than an essential piece in every single piece of tech. But an email address, something as simple as a login service, when you log into YouTube or when you log into Twitch or when you log into Instagram, X, whatever platform it might be, imagine that login service being a smart contract-based account. In other words, being a profile that you can attach your information to and you can control from different devices. So if my phone is in, I don't know, the French Alps at a content creator house, but I've left it there and I've gone home, I don't need to worry about, where do I control this account from? Because you can have different devices to control the same account. You can change your seed phase. You can back it up. You can have different social recovery methods. So just from an account perspective, we're still using email addresses. An email address is an identity. It's just the absolute worst form of an identity that you could ever think about. Of course, an email address can then be used to enter certain communities, to enter certain rooms, to enter certain societies. But it's never going to come to that because it's not an identity. So I think about this a lot too. And I think about creators and, I think in my past life, I would have loved to have been a creator and I would have loved to do nothing but take pictures and create videos and edits. But that's, not the life that I fell into, but a lot of my friends did. And a lot of the people that I care about are in. And every single one of them is so scared. So
probably, I mean, like, I definitely don't think about it like once a day, but it's definitely something that's been on my mind like lately.
I mean, if Elon Musk wants to take my Twitter, he can take it. Just like,
I mean, I worked so hard for it, and I think I managed to do the hackathon just because of it, and I'm not even that big. So I definitely, for me like this, and for somebody like me, like especially small content creators, and not only, would be very, very difficult to recover from that because I feel like a lot of people have put all their resources for the last couple of years into it. So I think like one of my big dreams would be to just be able to develop like a product for this kind of content creators. But probably this is a discussion for some other day. Something else I wanted to ask you is that, like, I know you're very big on consumer crypto discussions, and it's something I'm very passionate about as well. And I think you also had an event in Bangkok, if I'm not mistaken, about it. How does your focus on consumer crypto contribute to LUKSO's brand, and how do you think it helps the space evolve as well?
When I think about crypto consumer and decentralized social, I try to think about it as far away from LUKSO as possible. I try to have this like completely adjacent chain of thought. And the event that I threw in Bangkok, yes, it was funded by LUKSO. It was a LUKSO event, but it was not meant to be about LUKSO. And for anybody that actually went and spent time there, yes, it was pink. Yes, we had our t-shirts on display, but
It
it
was
wasn't.
fun.
It was great, and it wasn't a LUKSO event. It was about creating this room. I think what's really interesting, working for a layer one is really competitive. And unless you raise 300 million in investment from VCs and you're now in every single group that you want to be a part of, it's really intense. And everybody wants something in return. No one does anybody real favors. And it's all about, are you the next big thing? And if you're not, I'm not going to help you unless you pay me. So like trying to, and this is okay, like I'm not moaning about this business and it's life and it's how economies tick. But when LUKSO has thought about having booths at ETH Denver and we've done all of these activations. We've been to every single event, and DevCon, like completely transparently, they didn't accept our founder Fabian to speak there. And like they rejected somebody that worked at the foundation for nearly 5 years, and like authored ERC20 and built Web3.js and even built the first wallet on Ethereum called Mist Browsers. And when this rejection came through to my email, I was like, you know what? This is amazing. And I came to a realization that LUKSO is not invited to these rooms all the time. And it's not because we don't, belong in these rooms. It's because these rooms aren't really the rooms that we're even meant to be a part of. These discussions that I'm trying to make sure LUKSO is involved with don't really exist. And this topic of crypto consumer is not even really a thing. It hasn't been a hype wave. It hasn't been an NFT phase or meme coins or NFTs or ICOs. Like crypto consumer is still yet to have its time. So the event that was thrown in Bangkok was about only having panels, having no workshops, having no product demos. It was about having a group of people who align in topic and value debate. And I wanted it to get as spicy as possible and ultimately answer the question of, is crypto consumer bullshit? It's the most important question, and no one can answer this question definitively, right? Because there isn't a solution yet, and like it hasn't. We need more time to see what, but we're starting to understand more what needs to be on chain. How do we ensure that this is meant to be on chain, and how do we get to this, part of the journey? And this is happening through a lot of hard work under the hood.
How do you think we can get there? Let's say
by having a fundamentally social experience on chain, and I really think this is it. There's apps who do an incredible job. Like Joe Crace is a great example. Almost like even Polymarket is a great example. Like these people really make you feel like the blockchain is social. Even Solana meme coins. This is a social experience. It's fun. Like you're trading with your friends, you're looking at pictures and descriptions, and it feels social, but none of it truly is. None of it is really fueled by profiles and accounts and names that are fully decentralized. And to have an experience where everything has a face, however you want it to look, everything has a face, everything has a name, every profile that you work with, somebody behind that profile cares. It's very rare that you find an Instagram account that no one cares about and that they completely neglect. Sure, maybe some are more inactive than others, but it's a really important piece of identity. And until we have this social experience where you spend time to build this credibility and reputation that you're not willing to compromise, you're not willing to give up, you will do anything to keep, that's when we're going to have real users. People that actually have to be in this space, people that have, unless they're using this account, they're not speaking to their friends, they're not interacting with humans, they're not connecting, they're not in these societies and communities that they can only really be a part of through this unified identity. So from my perspective, I think the biggest piece of the puzzle that we're missing is this unified account.
Well, I feel like it's a lot of things to be bullish on moving forward in the industry, not just in 2025. Um, when it comes to like the creative side of things, as I see, you're very passionate about it as well. I know you guys have done quite a lot of partnerships, amongst which you had one with Boys Club. How do you think this kind of partnerships, or like what kind of role do you think these partnerships play in growing your notoriety and community building?
Yeah. I think they're a very important role. And like something that you have to be completely cognitive of when you throw activations or have partnerships, especially when there are parties, is your community needs to come first. And if your community is going to perceive something wrong, which they're going to if you're having these fun activations with Boys Club, because like ultimately from the outside looking in, it just seems like we're all dancing and drinking, from a free bar. So I think, first of all, you need to see and ask yourself, where are we with our community? Do we even really have these true fans? Do we have these people that really care about us? And if we do, what are we doing to give back to them? What are we doing to nurture these people, to provide, to help, and to enable? If you think that part is covered, and if you think you have this and you figured this part out, activations like working with Boys Club is it's some of like the best that you can do in this space. And Luxo was maybe the first like real partner with Boys Club. I'm not sure on like the complete specifics, but we were very early working with Boys Club, and we had this kind of like exclusive partnership with Boys Club for numerous parties. And it alongside our branding really put Luxo's name out there within this EVM event community, if you wish. Um, the issue that it garners is, first of all, the community can get annoyed, which is for very fair reason. And there should be way better strategy behind throwing these sort of activations from a layer one perspective. Number two is you start to show people your name, but maybe you're not ready to be listened to. Like a marketing has to be timing. And if you have the budget to throw these sort of activations, you need to be ready, even just with your voice, and with your mission and with your goals and your roadmap. So I think because Luxo's brand shifted from this fashion creator focus to, well, we're actually really just social and about, yes, creators and creatives. It's more than just fashion. But when we were, working with Boys Club, and when people first really started to see us, that wasn't the branding of Luxo, and we didn't have a product to show people. So my personal advice is, if you are going to throw pre-product, pre-TG events, make sure that your brand is fully aligned. And like, no matter what happens, whether you have a website update or you change your color, make sure that that message and that mission is not going to change anytime soon. Because what's harder than bringing in a group of people is making a group of people change their mind once they've been brought in. So the mission that I have is to show these people that this is so important, and it's going to be a part of hopefully everybody's life in some way or another. And to do that, I have to be as close to the product as possible, and to the roadmap, and to the creativity of what can be built on this.
And except for this like creative partnerships, what are some strategies you feel like have been the most successful for your community building?
Yeah. So when it comes to balancing activations, everything is done in very clear segregation. Yes, we're still a startup. Yes, we don't have thousands of people or thousands of millions in the bank, sadly. So we have to be very meticulous with what we do. This is not, like a joke where we can just throw something at the wall and hope that it sticks. Everything has to be done as what we believe to be the best objective and subjective decision for this time and for Luxo. Everything is pinned to Luxo succeeding. So the way that I at least look at it, and a lot of us do, is we balance it maybe within the same event, depending how big the event is, or over different events in different locations. So what I mean by this is DevCon is a massive event, and it happens once every 2 years. And when it happens, you can't beat it. It is the best event in the crypto space. So for DevCon, instead of just being like, okay, let's throw this, panel debate focused event, instead what we've done is let's think about the community. So we threw a 20 people co-living space. So no matter what we threw on top of this co-living space and this collaborative, co-working environment, we have our community with us anyway. So even if the anti-social club doesn't go well, or Moodang doesn't make waves in this space, then it's okay, because like we're with our community, and that's really what matters. Obviously, this is not the mindset that I have, but regardless, community first. The second thing that we focused on was, okay, well, how do we create a cultural activation? Yes, I would love to work with a boys club, but I have a limited resources. We have a limited resources. So I, found out that Moodang the Hippo was close to Bangkok, and was like, okay, this is going to be a first mover activation. Like the first one to move on this is going to win this, and someone's going to do it if I don't. And I found it out really early. I was already planning, the coach service and the logistics. And I just was like, you know what, I have to get this out now. So we just jumped the gun, got it out before a lot of stuff was even prepared, and brought in partners, not to pay LUKSO, but we want to collaborate. Like, I think fragmentation is unhealthy, but I also think in events, there's very healthy fragmentation. What I mean by that is, on Sunday, maybe I don't want to go to a party. Maybe I want to go on a coach and go and meet Moodang, right?
Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
And everybody was wearing the t-shirt. So
yeah,
good job there.
Yeah, it was bigger than what any of us could have expected. It was definitely like one of my proud career moments. Okay, so then we had community. I'm just trying to like map this out to you, how the philosophy looks. So community, cultural. Okay, and now that we've started with the community, the funnel's now wide. How do we think about narrowing this funnel down to get to this point of conversion? But what comes after culture is tech. So the anti-social club was born, and that was where we brought, the people thinking about building this stuff. People that really think about, how do we use these tools? How do we build these tools? And then after that comes the conversion. After that comes the constant subliminal marketing, and paraphernalia, where, although maybe you haven't started to use LUKSO or Universal Profile, you now like the team. You see that there's unequivocal passion behind every single person that you've met from this project. You're starting to think, well, something must be happening. You've seen LUKSO around. We've been around for a while. What is going on? And that's when the conversion starts. And now once we have our products, or like the Universal Profile mobile app, in a month or so, everything will shift with our activations. And you'll stop seeing LUKSO, and you'll only be using Universal Profiles. That's the goal, So yeah, it's about garnering a community through passion and alignment on your moral compass. Like, it's not a joke. Like, yeah, you can go and yap on Twitter, and you can definitely build a following, but are you going to build a real community that are there when your token is going through all-time highs and all-time lows? No, you're really not. And LUKSO's been through a really tough ride. We're really building something here that isn't based around TVL. Like, you know how crazy that is? You can't go and look at LUKSO's TVL to figure out how successful it is. You have to look at people, and actual users that maybe aren't using LUKSO to make money, but using LUKSO to interact, to follow. So garnering this community comes from a place of like complete passion. How do you find this passion? Well, you need to create the idea, create the primitives, create the plan, and hire the best people that you can find. Without paying too high or too low, finding a moral value ground, and ensuring that the people that you are associated with from the beginning are here from passion, not just from skill or from talent, but like these people really care about what you're working on. And then the community will build itself.
I know you wrote a piece, an article about it, about like organizing events with like your biggest lessons. Can you do like a TLDR of that, or if you have anything else you want to add, you can definitely. This is the perfect space to do it.
I mean, we should probably share the link because it's about a 20-minute read.
I will definitely add it. Yeah.
I hope that you've read it too, Alex. I mean, I wrote the article out of a place of like I refuse to do a DevCon wrap up. There's loads of good ones out here, but people wanted to hear my wrap up. So I was like, I'm just going to tell everybody what I learned and exactly how I done this. Because it really felt like Luxo made some of the biggest waves during Thailand. And like, it took a lot of work. So it's all about these 4 stages of community, culture, builders, and then products, and how every single one intertwines and how you should think about all of these stages. Of course, it's dependent on who you are, where you are, and what you're thinking about. But it was about the lessons, the learnings, the pros, the cons, the outcomes, return on investment from events, something that people don't ever talk about. So yeah, and it all came from a place of believing that events are usually a massive waste of time. So it wasn't like events is going to change your company's life. It was actually, you should probably avoid doing events. And if you are going to do it, this is what I think works.
I feel like we're keeping here like a mystery box, so I'll definitely ask everybody to read your article, and I'm gonna add it in the description of the episode so everybody can access that in case they haven't read it yet. One of the last questions I have for you is that what is your process of bringing builders to the LUKSO ecosystem, and how do you support them? In a few words.
We have a grant program. We just finished our first wave of our grants. And we had 500 builders and 130 applications in like maybe around 50 different countries. And we granted, I believe, 30% of those out of $1 million.
What kind of builders do you have?
Yeah, so the builders vary from consumer, from social, to DAOs, and thinking about these new society fueled with identity. And they also go all the way to blue sky, whether it's building DeFi, like social DeFi protocols, where you can trade, but also follow profiles and have a socialized trading experience. We have different tracks for this grant program. I think there's 4 or 5. But ultimately it comes down to, trying to build something with an identity at the heart of this idea, or the standards that we have, because the standards are a whole different conversation in itself. Builders, there's something that I've like really like struggled to believe, but it's so true. And it's the fact that you will not attain builders in this crypto market without a good product. I think Farcaster is the perfect example of like having a product and being a product first company, and people coming and being like, whoa, this could be big. And builders suddenly are interested, and they want to, they can see bugs, they can see potential, they can see how this can be used in the real world. And this happens from having a product. So what we've built at the moment has been kind of without this. It's all been from the standards and from the tools and the primitives. But LUKSO moving forward will be garnering more of a builder community from this product. There's other topics like maybe a bit more strategic about hackathons in real life versus offline, and about what countries to focus on, where to pay attention to, whether you should stay where you're based in Berlin for us, or whether you should go and explore Southeast Asia or South America. And I think I can tell you our experiences, but builders are everywhere, but they will never listen unless you hit a nerve that excites a builder. And once that happens, it's hard to, for them to not listen. So it's about finding this empathy, finding this mutual common ground, and finding people that really care about the stuff that you're building.
I kind of want to put you on the spot because we have a few minutes left. Do you have an unpopular opinion about Web3 or in Web3?
That we have no users. I mean, like really, like none. Um, I yeah. I mean, whether this is unpopular or not, I don't know. But like, go do the research. Go to that radar and crunch the numbers. We have like 1,000 weekly active users really using the blockchain in most ecosystems. And that's just trading or moving money from a network to another. So I guess my opinion is stop throwing events, and we have no users. Stop competing. You know, like,
What is one tool you like about in Web3, like a Web3 tool, or like what is one resource or like multiple resources if you have for the audience listening today and for those that have like stayed with us until the end of this episode?
sure. The best resource in crypto is Twitter. And do not let anybody tell you otherwise. It's where you find the most um, unpopular opinions, and it's where you can find the people that you want to listen to. My real advice on how to navigate tools is to, of course, figure out what you need, whether you're a marketer or a developer, or even in between. But my real advice is to find your people. And yes, I think that finding these people happens in real life and it happens in person. But you can find these people offline too. You can find them, oh, sorry, online too. You can find them on Twitter. Once you see a voice that you like and somebody that you think that you'd get along well with, from whatever perspective that might be, try to speak to this person, reach out to them. I got into crypto not by caring about just crypto and nothing else. I got into crypto by connecting with somebody who lived in New York and I was in London, and I was really young and threw a complete, random basketball and just hoped that it went in the hoop, and it did. And everyone in this space really does want to help one another. And we are all facing the same issues. So find someone that you think might be your person, someone that you would actually connect with from a philosophical, a technical perspective. And once you find your people, don't just try to find more new ones. Nurture these relationships, care for one another, try to build together, try to care as a unit and not as an individual. And then over time, yes, your community will grow, but just be slow and take a deep breath and really find where you believe that you belong in this space and find the voices that you care about.
I love what you said, and I want to give like a huge love to the out of ordinary community, especially because I would just want to share like a very quick story. I met somebody on Twitter, I mean, months ago, maybe like almost a year ago, and then I was at the speakers dinner in East Bucharest, I think, or NFC Bucharest. I can't remember exactly. And I was talking to those guys, and I think like the girl next to me saw that I was texting this Twitter guy. And she's like, "Oh my God, you know Senti?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then the guy next to her, he was like, "Oh, you know Senti?" He's like, "One of my best friends." I'm like, "How is this possible?" Like three people, like we just met, know exactly the same person. And then this guy, he recently posted on. I mean, he participated in the hackathon I did in Bangkok, and he recently posted and said. And he told me as well that I only participated and I only joined because I knew you and I knew you're going to do a great job. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that it was you and you pushed me to do it, because I think he was also the winner of one of the tracks.
Yeah.
So I think like it really made his day, it really made my day. And I definitely I know, like I felt it, like I felt like what you were saying.
I mean, people in crypto no longer bet on projects or even really bet on brands. They really bet on people. So you need these people who like connect and care and foster these. I have a bit of a similar story with somebody in this space called Satvik, and like he was really one of like the first people in crypto that I really got built a connection with, and he's doing amazing things now. And really, when him and I got along so well, I think that like you were kind of a representation of each other. And when you were having this dinner and like you were texting this person, and somebody's, oh, I know that's my friend. You're almost a representation of that person that you was messaging, because you two get along well, right? So other people that really like this person are like, well, if, this is someone that I really care about and you two are friends, then we must have something in common. And when you really find this circle and find this person, it's like, well, if you two are friends, and we'll probably get along too. And before you know it, not only are you in a group where you're building and you're caring, but you're also in a group of really like-minded people, and kind of like the circle that I somehow fell into in this space. It really are people that think about crypto consumer and think about, almost, humans, which is, hard to find. So.
You actually gave Instagram as an example like multiple times, but I think for me, I'm a millennial, so I think I used to do like Facebook and stuff for like to go back on the memory lane. But I think like right now, like I don't only give my Telegram to people, I also give my Twitter to people, and sometimes they're like, "Oh, do we have so many connections here?" So I think that's like beautiful.
But you know what's really funny is like, it goes Telegram, Twitter, and then Instagram. Like if you have my Instagram, we're really friends, and it's kind of funny how it's the complete opposite in like the Web 2 influencer Gen Z world. Like if you have my phone number, then we're friends. If you have my Instagram, then this isn't very important.
Everybody's there.
Yeah.
Well, Louie, thank you so much for being with me today. It's been a pleasure. I loved our chat. I can't wait to meet you at the next event. For everybody else, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you. See you in Denver. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you so much for listening to our Out of Ordinary podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to hear more content like this, then open up the podcast app and click on the follow or subscribe button. It takes less than 5 seconds and is the single best thing you can do to support the show and stay up to date to more marketing strategies that are being used in the Web3 space.